Hello and welcome back to Expert Exercise Facts and Fictions. Today, episode 5, we are talking what the hell is my core? Something the fitness industry, everyone out there in exercise world just goes, let's train your core. Today we're going to do a deep dive into exactly what is it, and is it maybe a little bit too simplified in this day and age? I think it actually is. Who am I? My name's Trent Cook, exercise physiologist, 30-year exercise career, very overqualified, lots of experience, have been teaching this for a long period of time at certain institutes as well. So it's going to be a nice practical lesson out there for the novice as to what actually is the core. Like I said, I think it's been too simply put for too long. I think if you asked 100 people out there in civilian life what the core was, you'd probably find the greater majority of them would just say your abdominal muscles or your abs. And I think that's too simplified. Yes, the core, effectively, the term is only a kind of a new age fitness industry term, so it doesn't really need to exist. And it doesn't need a true definition. However, if we're talking the reason why people think it's the abdominals, it's because we think those muscles are really important. And why are they really important? Because they do lots of holding us together. There are a lot more muscles at play than just that. Plus, the abdominals is even too simplified. There's many different abdominal muscles in the body as well. Okay, so what are the core muscles? We've got your transverse abdominis, we've got your internal oblique, we've got your external oblique, we've got your rectus abdominis. Go back to your TVA, which helps them out massively. You've got your diaphragm and your pelvic floor muscles. You've got your lumbar and thoracic erectors. You've got your scapular retractors. You've got your rotator cuff muscles and the grand poobah of them all, the gluteus maximus and its partners in crime, medius and minimus. So there is a lot going on. I'm going to deep dive through each of those muscles and exercises that can target them, and generally try to narrow your focus into being able to choose good exercises for those muscles. Firstly, though, you need to know, why are they so important? I mentioned before there, they kind of hold us together. They do. They create joint stability, very particularly our very important joint called the sacroiliac joint. Again, I'll try and get a picture up here for you. It's a joint that basically holds your pelvis onto your sacrum, therefore holds your hips onto your spine. Extremely important. That's where all joint stability and our foundation of functional ability is actually set from. So without the sacroiliac joint being stabilized properly, everything is flawed. And I'll talk through that in a deeper dive when I do an episode on the SIJ and SIJ dysfunction, because it's extremely common and it's the reason why back pain in westernized society is so prevalent. But that's another episode. So it also is all these core muscles are major stabilizers of not just your pelvis, but your spine. You've also got then up to your thoracic, because all this sort of stuff sits on top of your spine. So it all has to be stabilized as well. So effectively, we need to stabilize from our abdominal muscles, our gluteal muscles, up through the spinal muscles, out through the upper thoracic, and eventually to our rotator cuff muscles in our shoulder girdle. So other tasks that are enhanced, well, all tasks are enhanced by good core stabilization, but particularly the ultimate skill, the load that can be lifted and moved. All these things will improve. Your balance hinges intricately on how well all these stabilizers actually work together. You don't have to have too many or any of them not working too well, and hey presto, your balance is going to get pretty terrible. Again, we'll do an episode on balance exercises and falls prevention and all those things. But ultimately, you can visualize the dysfunction of the core muscles, the stabilizers, through someone's overall posture. And again, I'll do another episode on how to analyze that and how there's some pretty high-end ways to actually assess someone's posture and gain invaluable knowledge about what exercises are going to be good for that person initially. Okay, so we've got a special note on stabilizers and the fact that they can become inhibited. So muscular inhibition is a thing that's not widely known. We just think muscles will work because we want them to. We do learn, our joint stabilizers are very unique because we didn't actually learn how to use them. It was kind of given to us very early on in childhood. So basically a lot of our spinal stabilizers, transverse abdominis, which is a very important abdominal muscle, are all pre-programmed to work when we go through a crawl phase at birth. So basically head down, weight of our head in a bit of a crawling position, basically livens up a part of the brain stem that actually activates our joint stabilizers. And as long as we crawl for about 8 to 12 weeks, then those programs actually become automated and we hopefully carry that through the rest of our life. So basically, if you don't crawl, if you don't go through a proper crawl phase, then these muscles actually can't get up and running. And that creates problems like ligament laxity, joint dysfunction, all sorts of postural problems, musculoskeletal problems, coordination problems down the track. Unfortunately, there's a lot of incidents and accidents that can happen through our life that will also inhibit these joint stabilizing muscles. Quick rap sheet, because it's not the episode to deep dive into this too much. If you have any type of abdominal surgery where the transverse abdominis in particular was cut, then the transverse abdominis will shut down. It will also cause other muscles to become dysfunctional as well, namely pelvic floor. The childbirth, that stretches those muscles out, those abdominal muscles out massively, and they can become inhibited through repeated birth cycles. So there's problems there for women in particular. Concussions and tailbone landings have been found to inhibit spinal stabilizers. So your whole spine will become dysfunctional from a slight head knock or a tailbone landing. Repeated ankle sprains and major injuries to ankles and knees has been found to inhibit glutes. Tailbone landings has also been found to inhibit glutes. Car accidents have been found to inhibit lots of muscles, but specifically spinal muscles and gluteal muscles. So arm injuries, elbows and shoulder injuries, particularly where you damage like an AC joint or you actually tear a rotator cuff muscle, rotator cuff, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor and subscapularis. If any of those muscles become damaged, then that whole mechanism will become inhibited and not work properly. And then it's my job, what I mainly do all day, is actually help people reactivate these muscles and get them working back. It takes a long time to re-automate these muscles back in, but hey presto, you have to do more than one exercise program or one exercise workout. We generally will need about 1,500 to 2,500 repetitions to re-automate all these muscles back into our motor programs like squatting programs, lunging programs, twisting programs, bending, pushing, pulling, you name all the different programs, even just generally walking and locomotion type movement. We need a lot of repetitions to actually re-automate all of that. And it's a lot of me, in my line of work, nagging about how to brace your core properly. And I'm going to do an episode on how to actually brace your core properly. I'm just going to talk about the importance of it today. The long-term outcomes that come from inhibition are quite scary. Westernized population, I believe, last time I checked, has an incidence of lower back pain, significant lower back pain bouts at about 94 to 96%. It's quite scary. Like, we're just basically expecting that everyone's going to get back pain at some point. I speak to people and they think it's normal. Pain in any joint, particularly your back, is not normal and can a lot of the time be assisted greatly, if not corrected, from a well-designed joint stability program. Not just a core workout where you focus on the abdominals only, but looking at the whole mechanism and how it actually works properly. So, long-term outcomes can be back pain, knee pain, hip pain, you name any joint in your body, it can suffer from pain. We live in an epidemic now where knees and hips need to be replaced. Spinal surgeries are pretty normal. People get migraines and headaches regularly due to postural problems, particularly spinal and depressed rib angle type forward shoulder, head forward type issues. So these are all things that can be remedied very easily in a first or a second exercise program. The thing that really makes the stabilizers different to your prime mover muscles, your moving muscle joints, is that stabilizing muscles are typically more dominant in slow twitch muscle fibers. Moving muscles are more fast twitch muscle fibers. And that's key. You're thinking, oh, why the hell do I need to know that, Trent? You do, because it does mean you have to fatigue them differently. Slow twitch muscle fibers fatigue more optimally over a longer period of time. They're still part of the anaerobic energy system. Go back over one of the previous episodes. They're still part of the anaerobic energy system, so we don't want to fatigue them over 10 minutes or so. But we do need to work them up around the 2-minute to 3-minute type time period, which means you're going to be looking down the barrel more of like 15 to 30 repetitions to actually make sure they're activating. If you don't get over that 15 repetition mark, then you're probably just still targeting the fast twitch muscle fibers, therefore the prime movers. So if you're doing a very typical spinal exercise like the bird dog, which is a great spinal exercise, but you're only doing 10 repetitions on each side, then you're nowhere near the time frame necessary to make sure you're activating the joint stabilizers. Gluteals do a bit of both. They've got a fair few slow twitch and fast twitch. I mentioned how talented they were before. So if you're trying to train them for power, then you do big, explosive, possibly heavily loaded movements, and you do very small numbers of repetitions. But you can also train them to be very good at stabilization, which they also need to do. So you'll need to do that with more like 15 to maybe up around the 30 mark. I don't program 30 very often, but textbook wise and time to fatigue wise, 30 repetitions actually still works. So if you're taking, say, 4 or 5 seconds to do one repetition, then over the course of 180 seconds, that's quite a lot of repetitions. So if you focus on keeping it fairly simple, 15 repetitions gets you a heavier load, slightly less time frame. 20 repetitions works really well for domestic cat beginners. And then if you're getting up into elite athlete type stuff and targeting joint stabilizers, you'll go with much fancier movements, but also you'll look up around that 25 to 30 type repetition mark. But I tend to find most of my beginners, I focus on 20 repetitions and it works really well. And as they start to progress a bit and I want to load them up a bit more, then I start to whittle them down to about 15 repetitions. Then I get this nice happy medium between fast and slow twitch. But initially, you always want to focus on the joint stabilizers, the core muscles, and you need to do that with higher repetitions up around the 20 rep mark. Works a treat. Start there, then add load later. And again, I'll talk to you about exercise progression at a later stage. So, stability exercises, there can be some very specific ones. And again, I've probably put some exercises up along the way. The bird dog, no doubt, I put up. There's an alternating Superman that you can do on a Fitball. When you add balance to an exercise, and I'll put up at this point a single leg RDL. RDL is a great kind of hip and lower back strengthening exercise, hamstring strengthening exercise, gluteal strengthening exercise. Done on one leg and over many repetitions, like 15 and 20 repetitions, actually is a great joint stabilizing targeting exercise. So adding stability type exercises to it. There's an exercise that I do with my clients all the time called a long step lunge. It's not like a deep walking lunge, it's just with a very elongated step. You have a go at really trying to lengthen your step out, and hey presto, it'll actually test your balance a fair bit. Slower movements, slow the movements right down, like where you might normally do, say, a 2-2 tempo on a strength training exercise, like 1-2, 1-2. You slow these exercises down to like 3-3 tempos. Sometimes with glutes in particular and spinal muscles in particular, they work really well when you actually hold them statically for a 3-second period. So your bird dog could very well be enhanced by just adding a 3-second hold to the top of the movement. Your gluteal extension exercises can be enhanced greatly by actually clenching your glutes for a 3-second isometric hold. and then relaxing, going back to the start, lift up again, hold for 3 seconds. That tempo, that isometric 3-second tempo works really well. There's lots of formulas out there for 5 seconds and 10 seconds. I just tend to find 3 seconds is a good time period for most people. And most people I work with are civilized, everyday human beings and a lot of beginners. 3 seconds has just worked well for me over time. Okay, so summing it all up, first and foremost, if you're a beginner and you have no idea whether your core works or not, assume it doesn't. Start from the beginning. Nice, easy, basic exercises where you can brace your core properly, elevate your ribs, and then do your core exercises from there. Your abdominal exercises, your gluteal exercises, your spinal stabilization exercises, your scapular retraction exercises, and your rotator cuff exercises. You need a very individualized approach to start with. Actually starting with a group exercise class for core conditioning is a terrible idea. It's full of risk. It's not going to be individualized to your needs. Yes, you might get encouraged to brace your core, hopefully correctly, but so many people mess these things up that you do need some individual expert eyes on you to make sure you're actually activating these muscles correctly. Then you need the program progressed. A lot of people think it's all about the first program that's the most important. Yeah, it's most important because it's the first one, but then the programs get more individualized over time. And if you're a fitness instructor out there going, okay, we do this to start with and then we progress guaranteed every time through these sorts of programs, then you're not making it individualized enough. You need to be reanalyzing your clients and making sure that they're doing the best program for them at the time. And that's why people like to come to experts, so they know they're not wasting their time. So individualized programming can be a little bit more successful from that point of view. You need to target the correct muscles. You need to target in slow movements over long duration repetitions. So don't be afraid to add those little 3-second isometric holds to your spinal exercises, your gluteal exercises, and slow your other movements right down and try to work around that 15 to maybe 20, 25 repetition type mark. So in finishing, if your joint stabilizers have become dysfunctional, then there was an old kind of saying that was taught to me at numerous courses I did over the years: you can't shoot a cannon from a canoe. So the point is that if the base is not stable, then you're not going to be able to do big bang things on top of it. You're basically going to destroy the vessel, and that is what we do over a longer period of time. Maybe it doesn't disintegrate straight away, but over a longer period of time, we do suffer from lots of overuse type injuries because our joints are not being protected and stabilized properly. So once you've got a nice solid core, the canoe has a nice solid base to it, it is nice and structurally sound, then you have basically a weapon of somewhat mass destruction that you can actually go forth with and do all your fancy moving and shaking to the best of your ability with much lower injury risk, much more greater performance capacity, and you won't be wearing out your joints as rapidly over your lifetime, because we have to keep working out, we have to keep moving. We're an animal that's suffering from a lack of activity from time to time. So we need to be extremely consistent, but we have so many situations that cause our muscles and our joint stabilizers, our core muscles to become dysfunctional. We need to pay attention to that and get that rectified. So, recap. Transverse abdominis, crazy important, brace your core. Pelvic floor diaphragm, they go hand in hand with the transverse abdominis. You've got your internal, external oblique, you've got your rectus abdominis on top of that, you've got your gluteus maximus as king of the jungle, you've got your thoracic and lumbar erectors working up to your scapular retractors and then into your rotator cuff. It's all a massive core package. It's not as simple as just your abdominal muscles. So think of it more holistically like that, and you'll go a lot further with giving yourself the correct exercise prescription and support. Thank you for joining in. Talk soon.